The forge hall of the Galactic Academy stretched wider than many landing fields. Rows of furnaces burned with deep orange fire heat, rolled across the stone floor like slow wave. Students from dozens of worlds stood beside heavy work tables. Some were tall, armored species with thick scales. Some had feathers and long, sharp eyes. Others had smooth skin that shimmered like polished glass. They had come from distant systems to study war discipline and survival. The center of the hall stood the instructor master. Torvak of the Varkish warrior clan's age had darkened his scales, and many scars crossed his arms. His golden eyes moved slowly across the students. When he lifted one claw, the room fell completely silent. Today, you will learn the foundation of every warrior culture, the blade. Not how to swing it, not how to take a life, but how to create the weapon that carries a warrior. Spirit. Low whispers moved through the class. Many students came from civilizations where forging a blade was sacred. Torva turned and pointed toward the roaring furnaces. Each of you will forge a blade. Your material is your choice here. Skill will decide its worth. Around the hall, students revealed what they had brought her. Tall student from Aurealis placed a glowing crystal on the table. Inside the crystal, small storms of light moved slowly. Another student dropped a heavy block of star iron mined from a dead moon. The metal rang like thunder when it touched the table. Slender Valari student opened a container of living alloy that flowed like silver water. Rare materials, powerful materials. Student wanted their blade to be legendary. At the far end of the hall stood a human girl. Her name was Mira Tanakashi. Looked smaller than most of the others. Her dark hair was tied behind her head. The material on her table was simply long, pale bones. Several students stared. Then quiet laughter spread across the room. A large Krenth warrior leaned closer to look. His armor plates shifted as he laughed. Did your world forget how to make metal human? More students chuckled. One whispered that humans must hunt with kitchen tools. Mira did not react. She simply adjusted her sleeves and looked at the Bone Master. Torvak noticed the quiet human station when he walked past. His golden eyes rested on the bone. You intend to forge with this? Mira nodded calmly. Yes. Instructor Torvak studied her face. For a moment his expression was unreadable. Then he gave a slow, approving rumble. Very well, let the forge judge your choice. The furnaces roared brighter. The hall filled with hammer strikes and sparks. Metal glowed red, then orange. Crystal shards screamed softly as they were living. Alloy twisted under careful pressure. The sound of forging echoed through the academy. Clank clank. Students hammered their materials with pride. Massive blades slowly emerged from the fire. Some weapons were thick and brutal, others were thin and elegant. Dentivery. Student imagined the glory their blade might bring. Mira did not light the furnaces that she sat quietly with. The bone in her hands, she turned it slowly under the firelight. Then she picked up a rough, grinding stone. Instead of hammering, she began to scrape. White dust fell across the table. Scraped her and scraped her. The sound was soft compared to the roaring forge. Few students glanced toward her and smirked. The Krenth warrior shook his head. The human sans dinner scraps laughter moved across the room again, but Myra kept working. Her movements were slow and patient. She studied the bone with careful eyes. Each scrape shaped it a little more. Hours passed. The forge hall grew hot as sweat covered many alien faces. Heavy metal blades were lifted from the furnaces. Glowing bright red. Students hammered edges into shape. The ringing of steel echoed. Endelsleitervac moved between the tables, watching the work. He corrected Gripsy, adjusted blade angles. He praised effort and discipline when he reached Mira again. He paused. The bone no longer looked like a bone. The shape had changed completely. It was now thin and curved smooth. and balanced Sedivak watched her hands as she worked. Your method is slow, human mirror, not a deus instructor, but sharpness does not come from force, it comes from patience. Sedivak tilted his head with interest. Explain. You're thinking humans used bone tools long before metal hunters learned how to grind edges until they could cut skin, hide, and even wood. When bone is polished, the outer surface becomes very strong. Torvak remained silent but continued watching. Mira switched to a finer grinding stone. Her strokes became slower and more careful. The edge grew thinner. She dipped the blade into water, then polished it again. White dust slowly disappeared, and the blade began to shine. Hours later, Torvak raised his claw. High time is finished. Bring your blades forward. Student stepped proudly toward the central testing table. One by one, they placed their weapons on the surface. Crystal swords, glowing with energy. Heavy star iron cleavers, flexible living alloy daggers. Weapons from many worlds rested together. Each blade reflected its maker culture. Each blade showed skill and ambition. Unifiedly, Myra walked forward quietly. She placed the bone blade beside the others. The weapon looked simple, almost primitive. Some students struggled not to laugh. Again Torvak lifted the first blade. Heavy star iron weapon, he struck the armored testing plate. The impact echoed across the hall. The metal plate dented deeply. Strong weapon. Next, he tested the glowing crystal blade. Edge sliced into the armor, but a tiny piece chipped away. Very sharp but brittle. Then the living alloy blade cut the plate and bent slightly before returning to shape. Flexible and intelligent design. One by one, the blades were tested, each one strong in its own way, each one worthy of respect. Finally, only one blade remained. On the table, the bone blotted. Torvak lifted it carefully. The room was quiet now. Even the students who laughed earlier were watching closer. Torvak touched the edge with one claw. Thin red line appeared instantly. Blood formed along the cut. The instructor blinked slowly. Interesting. He stepped toward the armored testing plate. The blade moved with a smooth, quiet motion. No heavy swing, no loud strike, just a precise cut. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a deep line appeared across the plate. The armor slowly split along the cut. Gasps filled the forge holder. Krenth warrior stepped forward in disbelief. That armor stops plasma. Torvak examined the split plate carefully. The cut was deeper than any other weapon had made. He turned toward the class, holding the simple bone blade. This weapon was made from the weakest material in this room. No rare metal, no alien crystal, no advanced energy field, yet it cut deeper than all the other. Torvak looked toward Myra. Why bone? Mirror answered quietly. Because humans learned long ago that tools are only as good as the mind that shapes them. Torvak gave a deep rumbling laugh that echoed through the forge. Holiest human, that lesson is older than many empires. He faced the entire class. Many of you relied on powerful materials. You trusted strength and rarity, but the human trusted knowledge and patience. He lifted the bone blade so the edge caught the firelight. Remember this lesson. The greatest weapon is not the metal, not the crystal, not the technology. The greatest weapon is the mind that understands how to use what it has. Silence filled the room. Students looked again at the simple blade resting in Torvak's hand. It was plain, it was quieted, it had defeated every other weapon. Mira stepped back toward her station. The Krenth warrior approached slowly. There was no laughter, no, only respect in his voice. Perhaps humans are stranger than we believed. Myra smiled slightly. Humans simply learned to survive with whatever we had. Across the forge hall, Master Torvak placed the bone blade at the center of the table. Under the bright forge light, it gleamed softly. weapon made from almost nothing, yet sharper than everything around its hand. In that moment, many young warriors from distant worlds understood a truth they would remember for the rest of their lives. Never underestimate humans, because when humans have almost nothing, they still find a way to create something dangerous.